The morning sun hit the windows of Training Hall 7 at Vega Station Military Academy. Hana walked into the room carrying a simple bag. She looked like any other human woman. Her black hair was tied back. Her uniform was neat but not fancy. She was 32 years old and had been teaching combat training for 2 years. The students were already waiting. 24 cadets from different worlds stood in neat rows. Some were human, others were not. Kim Dae-ho and Park Soo-bin were both from Earth. They stood next to each other near the back. Dae-ho was tall and strong. Soo-bin was smaller but moved like a dancer. Near the front stood 3 alien students. They looked bored. The first was Choi Min-ho. His mother was human, but his father was Zenthari. This meant he could read minds if he wanted to. His purple eyes glowed softly when he was thinking hard. Next to him was Nam So-young. She was pure human but had trained in the old fighting styles. The third was Oh Jae-min. His people were called Voltaic. They could control electricity and energy with their hands. "Good morning," Hana said. Her voice was calm and clear. "Today we practice combat without powers." Several alien students made unhappy sounds. Min-ho rolled his eyes. "Again with this rule," he said to his friend. "Why do humans always want us to fight like animals?" Hana heard him but did not get angry. She had heard worse things before. "Mr. Choi," she said, "please tell the class why we have this rule." Min-ho stood up straight. His purple eyes flashed. "Because humans are jealous," he said. "You cannot do what we can do, so you make rules to bring us down to your level." Some students laughed quietly. The human students looked embarrassed. Dae-ho's face turned red with anger. He started to step forward, but Soo-bin grabbed his arm. Hana nodded like she was thinking about this. "That is one way to see it," she said. "Anyone else have an idea?" So-young raised her hand. She was one of the few humans who could keep up with the alien students. "Maybe it is to make us work harder," she said. "Powers make things too easy." "Better," Hana said, "but not complete." "Anyone else?" The room was quiet. Then a small voice spoke up. It was Anbora. She was a Morphean, which meant she could change her shape. But she was shy and did not talk much. "Maybe it is to teach us that powers can fail," she said. Hana smiled. It was the first real smile of the day. "Very good, Miss An. Powers can be blocked. They can be taken away. They can stop working when you need them most. But skill and training never leave you." Jaemin laughed. His hands sparked with blue electricity. "My power has never failed me," he said. "I can light up this whole room right now." "Please do not," Hana said. Her voice was still calm, but something changed in her eyes. "Last week, a Voltaic soldier lost his powers when enemies used a damping field. He died because he never learned to fight without them." The sparks in Jaemin's hands died out. He looked less sure of himself. Hana walked to the center of the room. "Today we will practice basic combat forms. Partner exercises. No powers at all. If I see anyone using abilities, you will run laps until dinner." The students paired off. Hana watched them carefully. Most of the alien students moved like they were bored. They went through the motions but did not try hard. The human students worked harder, but they were clearly not as strong or fast as their alien classmates. Min-ho was paired with Dae-ho. The half-Zenthari boy was much faster. He could almost read Dae-ho's moves before he made them, even without using his mind powers. Dae-ho kept trying harder, but he was always one step behind. "This is stupid," Min-ho said after blocking another punch. "I could end this fight in seconds if I used my real abilities." "But you cannot use them," Dae-ho said, breathing hard. "That is the point." "The point is to waste our time," Min-ho replied. "Humans made this rule because they know they are the weakest race in the galaxy." Hana appeared next to them. She moved so quietly that neither boy had heard her coming. "Mr. Choi, step back," she said. "Let me show you something." Min-ho stepped away, smiling like he had won something. Hana took his place across from Dae-ho. The human cadet looked nervous. His instructor was smaller than him and looked much less strong. "Attack me," Hana said. "Use everything you have except powers." Dae-ho hesitated. "Instructor, I do not want to hurt you." "You will not," she said simply. Dae-ho threw a careful punch. Hana moved slightly to the side. His fist went past her ear. Before he could pull back, she had grabbed his wrist and twisted. Suddenly, Dae-ho was on the ground and Hana was standing over him completely calm. "Again," she said. This time Dae-ho tried harder. He threw 3 quick punches and tried to grab her. Hana moved like water. Every attack missed by inches. Then her hand touched his shoulder, and Daeho found himself flying backward. He landed hard on the mat. The room was completely quiet now. All the students were watching. Again, Hana said. This time, really try to hit me. Daeho's face was red, but not from anger. He was embarrassed and confused. He was strong and had trained for years, but his instructor was making him look like a child. He charged forward with everything he had. Hana did not move until the last second. Then she turned, stepped, and somehow Daeho was in the air. He hit the mat so hard that the sound echoed through the room. Hana helped him stand up. Are you hurt? She asked. Daeho shook his head. He was fine, but his pride was damaged. Good, Hana said. She turned to address the whole class. What did you just see? You beat him easily, Subin said. But how? You are not much bigger than me. I used technique, Hana said. I used his strength against him. I used timing and position. These things work against anyone, no matter how strong they are. Minho looked angry. That is just human tricks. If I used my telepathy, I would know every move you planned to make. Hana looked at him for a long moment. Maybe, she said. But what if your telepathy stopped working? It will not, Minho said. Are you sure? Hana asked. Are you willing to bet your life on that? Before Minho could answer, an alarm started blaring through the academy. Red lights flashed on the walls. A voice came over the speakers. All instructors report to command immediately. All students return to quarters. This is not a drill. The students looked at each other with worry and excitement. Real alarms were rare at the academy. Hana's expression did not change, but something shifted in her posture. She suddenly looked more alert, more dangerous. Class dismissed, she said. Practice the forms we worked on today. Remember, skill beats power when power fails you. As the students filed out, Minho turned back to her. Instructor Hana, he said. Do you really think human fighting techniques can beat someone like me? Hana was packing her bag. She did not look up when she answered. I hope you never have to find out, she said quietly. Minho left feeling confused. There had been something in her voice that he did not understand. Something that made him feel cold inside even though he could not say why. Hana finished packing and walked toward the door. In the hallway, she passed Yoon Ji-woo, her teaching assistant. Ji-woo was young and eager, fresh from basic training. Instructor, Ji-woo said, what do you think the alarm is about? Hana paused at the doorway. She looked back at the training room where her students had been learning their basic forms. I hope it is just practice, she said. But her eyes said she did not believe that at all. The command room was full of worried voices when Hana arrived. Admiral Kang Tae-sung stood at the main screen, his face dark with concern. Other instructors crowded around him, all talking at once. Hana waited quietly by the door until the admiral noticed her. Instructor Lee, he said. Thank you for coming quickly. Hana nodded. What is the situation, sir? Admiral Kang touched a button and the screen showed a star map. A red dot blinked near the edge of the display. Mining colony on Kepler 442b, he said. They sent a distress signal 6 hours ago. Pirates have taken the facility. 300 civilians are trapped inside. What about the local defense force? Asked Commander Park, another instructor. Destroyed in the first attack, Admiral Kang replied. The pirates came prepared. They knew exactly where to hit and when. Hana studied the display. What about regular military units? Surely someone is closer than we are. Admiral Kang's expression grew darker. The 4th Fleet is fighting rebels near Proxima. The 2nd Fleet is 3 weeks away. By then, those civilians will be dead. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The Academy had ships, but they were for training. They had weapons, but they were not as powerful as real warships. Most importantly, they only had students, not real soldiers. Sir, said Commander Park carefully, you cannot be thinking of sending cadets into combat. Admiral Kang turned to face all the instructors. The senior students are almost finished with their training. Some are better than new soldiers, and we have experienced instructors to guide them. It is too dangerous, another instructor said. These are children. These children will be soldiers in 6 months, Admiral Kang replied. Some of them are already better fighters than most of the regular troops. And those civilians do not have 6 months. Hana stepped forward. Admiral, if you are serious about this, I volunteer to go with them. Everyone turned to look at her. Admiral Kang raised an eyebrow. Instructor Lee, you have been here for 2 years. Your file says you worked as a training officer before this. This would be your first real combat mission. Something flickered across Hana's face, too fast for anyone to see clearly. I have some experience, she said quietly. I can keep the students alive. Admiral Kang studied her for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. Very well. Choose 12 of the best senior students. Take the training ship Horizon. You leave in 2 hours. The other instructors looked shocked, but they did not argue. Admiral Kang was known for making hard choices. This was one of the hardest. An hour later, Hana stood in the ship bay looking at her chosen students. She had picked carefully. Kim Dae-ho and Park Soo-bin were there, along with Nam So-young. The alien students included Choi Min-ho, Oh Jae-min, and An Bo-ra. 6 others completed the team. A mix of humans and aliens, all among the best fighters in their year. Listen carefully, Hana said. This is not a training exercise. Real people are in danger. Some of you might get hurt. Some of you might not come home. The students looked nervous but determined. This was what they had been training for. Anyone who wants to leave can do so now. Hana continued. No shame in it, nobody moved. Good, Hana said. Get your gear and board the ship. We launch in 30 minutes. The Horizon was not a large ship, but it was fast and well built. It had been used to train navigation students for 5 years. Now it carried 12 cadets and their instructor toward what might be their first and last real battle. The journey to Kepler 442b would take 3 days. Hana used the time to continue training. Every day the students practiced combat forms in the ship's small gym. Every evening she taught them tactics and strategy. Remember, she told them on the second day, pirates are not like the training robots you have fought. They are smart. They are mean. They will try to kill you and they will not follow any rules. Minho raised his hand. Instructor, can we use our powers in real combat? Hana considered this. If your life depends on it, yes. But remember what I taught you. Powers can fail. Do not depend on them completely. What if the pirates have ways to block our abilities? Asked Bora quietly. Then you use everything else I have taught you, Hana replied. Speed, surprise, teamwork. Make them fight on your terms, not theirs. That evening, So-young found Hana alone in the ship's small observation room. The instructor was staring out at the stars, but she seemed to be thinking about something else. Instructor, So-young said. Can I ask you something? Of course. In training, when you fought Dae-ho, you moved differently than I have ever seen anyone move. Where did you learn to fight like that? Hana was quiet for a long moment. I had good teachers, she said finally. Were they human teachers? Another pause. Some were. So-young sensed there was more to the story, but Hana's expression warned her not to ask. Instead, she said, Will you teach me to move like that? I am already teaching you, Hana replied. You just need more practice. On the 3rd day, they could see Kepler 442b on the main screen. It looked like a brown and gray ball with patches of white ice. The mining colony was on the day side near the equator. Sergeant Lim Dong-wook, the ship's security chief, came to find Hana in her cabin. He was an older man who had served in the regular military for 20 years. Instructor, he said, I have been looking at the sensor readings. This does not look good. Hana looked up from the report she was reading. What do you see? The pirates have at least 2 ships in orbit. Good ones, not the junk that most criminals use. And the colony's defense grid is completely down. Either these pirates are very lucky or they had inside help. Hana nodded. She had been thinking the same thing. What else? The distress signal stopped 12 hours ago. Either they destroyed the transmitter or... He did not finish the sentence. Or they killed everyone who might use it, Hana said grimly. There is something else, Sergeant Lim continued. I ran the sensor data through the computer. The pirate ships matched the design of military patrol boats. Newer ones, this made Hana look up sharply. You think these are deserters? Former military, maybe. Or maybe someone sold them military equipment. Either way, these are not ordinary pirates. Hana stood up and walked to the small window in her cabin. Kepler 442b was getting larger. Soon they would be close enough for the pirates to detect them. Sergeant, she said without turning around, how many combat missions have you been on? 17, ma'am, plus 6 peacekeeping operations. Did you ever face an enemy who was better armed than you? Lim thought about this. A few times. It is not fun. What did you do? Used whatever advantages we had. Speed, surprise, better training. Sometimes that is enough. Hana turned to look at him. And sometimes? Sometimes good soldiers die anyway, he said honestly. Hana nodded. Thank you for being honest. Make sure the students check their equipment one more time. We will be there soon. After Sergeant Lim left, Hana opened her personal bag. Inside were items that looked like simple bracers, metal bands that went around her wrists. They looked plain and ordinary, but when she touched them, symbols appeared on their surface. Strange symbols that did not match any known writing. She had worn these bracers every day for 2 years. The students had seen them but never asked what they were for. They looked like jewelry or maybe some kind of good luck charm. Hana held them in her hands and closed her eyes. For just a moment, her calm expression changed. She looked older, more tired, and much more dangerous. Then she put the bracers back on her wrists and closed the bag. When she looked up again, she was just Instructor Lee Hana, combat teacher at the academy. But deep inside, something else was waking up. Something that had been sleeping for 2 years, waiting for the day when it might be needed again. The ship's intercom crackled to life. All hands prepare for arrival at Kepler 442b. Estimated time to orbit, 2 hours. Hana stood up and straightened her uniform. It was time to see what her students had really learned. And maybe if things went very badly, time for them to learn what their instructor had been hiding all along. The horizon dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442b system. Immediately, the ship's sensors began picking up signals. 2 pirate vessels orbited the planet like hungry wolves. They were sleek and dangerous-looking, clearly built for war. They have not seen us yet, reported Cadet Ryu Hyunwoo from the sensor station. He was a Zenthari, like Minho, but quieter and more careful. We came in behind the moon. It is blocking their view. Hana studied the display screen. The mining colony was a cluster of white buildings on the planet's surface. Normally it would be busy with workers and transport ships. Now it looked dead and empty. Any signs of life down there? She asked. Hard to tell from here, Hyunwoo replied. But I am picking up heat signatures. Someone is alive in the main building. How many? Maybe 50 people. Could be hostages. Could be pirates. Maybe both. Sergeant Lim came onto the bridge carrying a tablet. I have been studying the colony layout, he said. 3 main buildings connected by tunnels. The power plant is separate, about half a kilometer away. If we could take that. The pirates would kill the hostages, Hana finished. We need a different plan. She turned to address all the students. They stood in a circle around her, trying to look brave. Some succeeded better than others. Listen carefully, she said. We will land on the far side of the ridge, out of sight of the colony. Then we approach on foot. The plan is simple. Get inside, free the hostages, capture the pirates if possible. What about their ships? Asked Song Ye-jin. She was a Morphean like Bo-Ra, but taller and more confident. Sergeant Lim will stay with the horizon, Hana replied. If those ships come after us, he will try to keep them busy. Lim nodded grimly. The Academy training ship was fast, but it was not built for space combat. He would be badly outgunned. Any questions? Hana asked. Minho raised his hand. Instructor, what if you are wrong about not using our powers? What if we need them to save lives? Hana looked at him for a long moment. Use your judgment, she said finally. But remember, if you depend on your powers and they fail, people die. 20 minutes later, the horizon landed behind a rocky hill 2 kilometers from the mining colony. The students gathered their equipment and prepared to leave the ship. Each carried a standard military rifle, body armor, and emergency supplies. Hana checked her own gear one last time. Her rifle looked the same as the others, but her movements as she handled it were different. More sure. More professional. Remember the plan? She said as they prepared to leave. Stay quiet until we reach the colony. Stay together. Watch for traps. And do exactly what I tell you, when I tell you. The students nodded. They had trained for this, but training was different from the real thing. The landscape of Kepler 442b was rough and rocky. The air was thin but breathable. The mining colony sat in a valley between 2 ridges, making it easy to defend but also easy to trap. Hana led the group along the ridge, staying low to avoid being seen. The students followed in single file, just as they had practiced. Everything seemed to be going according to plan. Then Minho made his first mistake. They were still half a kilometer from the colony when he decided to use his telepathic abilities to scout ahead. He closed his eyes and reached out with his mind, trying to sense the thoughts of the people in the buildings below. The psychic scream that hit him was like being struck by lightning. Minho collapsed, clutching his head and crying out in pain. The sound echoed off the rocks, easily loud enough for anyone in the colony to hear. "What did you do?" Hana hissed, dropping down beside him. "Psychic dampener," Minho gasped. "They have a psychic dampener. It felt like my brain was on fire." Hana cursed under her breath. Psychic dampeners were expensive military equipment. These were not ordinary pirates. "Can you move?" she asked. Minho nodded, though his face was still pale with pain. "I think so." "Then we keep moving. They know we are here now." But it was already too late. As the group continued toward the colony, Yejin tried to use her shape-shifting ability to scout ahead. She began to change form, shifting from her normal appearance to something that looked like a large bird. Halfway through the transformation, she froze. Warning lights appeared on a device strapped to her wrist, a bioscanner that she had not noticed before. "They can see me," she whispered in horror. "Even when I change shape, they can still see me." More advanced military technology. Hana was beginning to understand just how prepared these pirates were. "Everyone stay in your normal forms," she ordered. "No powers at all until we know what other surprises they have." They reached the outer edge of the colony just as the sun was setting. The buildings looked peaceful in the dim light, but Hana knew that was an illusion. She signaled for the group to spread out and approach from different directions. That was when everything went wrong. The first shots came from the roof of the main building. Laser blasts that lit up the darkening sky like deadly fireworks. The students scattered for cover behind rocks and equipment, but they were caught in the open. "They were waiting for us," shouted Daeho from behind a mining cart. More shots came from other buildings. The pirates had set up a perfect crossfire. Worse, their weapons were military grade, much more powerful than the training rifles the students carried. Bei Sujin, a human student with some voltaic ancestry, tried to use her energy manipulation powers to create a shield. Blue electricity sparked around her hands as she tried to form a protective barrier. The electricity simply disappeared. Absorption shields, built into the pirate weapons, drained away her power like water down a drain. "My abilities are not working," she screamed. Park Ji-sung, one of the human cadets, tried to move to a better position. A laser blast caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around and sending him crashing to the ground. His armor had stopped the worst of it, but he was clearly hurt. "Ji-sung is down," called Subin. She started to move toward him, but more shots forced her back into cover. The situation was falling apart fast. The pirates had better weapons, better positions and technology that neutralized the students' powers. Worse, they seemed to know exactly where each student was hiding. "This is not random criminals," Hana said grimly, speaking into her communication device. "These are trained soldiers." As if to prove her point, a voice boomed out across the colony. It came from speakers built into the buildings, amplified so everyone could hear. "Academy students," the voice said. It was a woman's voice, calm and professional. "This is Captain Yang Mi-kyung. You are outgunned and surrounded. Surrender now and no one else needs to get hurt." From her hiding place behind a metal container, Hana studied the buildings. She could see movement on the roofs and in the windows. At least 20 pirates, all in good positions, all with military-grade weapons. Her students were brave, but they were not ready for this. Most had never been in a real fight before. The alien students were panicking because their powers did not work. The human students were trying their best, but their training weapons were almost useless against the pirates' armor. "Instructor," called Kim Woo-jin from behind a pile of mining equipment. "What do we do?" Before Hana could answer, Captain Yang's voice came again. This time, it was colder. "You have 1 hour to decide," she said. "If you do not surrender, I will start killing hostages. 1 every 10 minutes until you give up, or until they are all dead." To prove she was serious, the sound of a single gunshot echoed from the main building. Then silence. Several of the students made small sounds of horror. Somewhere in that building, an innocent person had just died because of their mission. Hana closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, something had changed in her expression. The calm, patient instructor was still there, but underneath was something much harder. She looked down at her wrists, where the simple metal bracers reflected the last light of the setting sun. For 2 years, she had worn them without thinking about what they really were. Now, with her students trapped and civilians dying, she was starting to remember. Hong Sang-ho, she called quietly to one of the nearby students. You said these bracers looked familiar. Sang-ho was a human cadet who was interested in military history. He crawled closer, staying low to avoid the pirate snipers. Yes, instructor, he said. The symbols on them look like old military codes, but I could never figure out what they meant. Hana turned the bracers so he could see them clearly. In the dim light, the symbols seemed to glow faintly. They are not codes, she said quietly. They are locks. Locks for what? Hana did not answer immediately. Instead, she activated her communication device. All students, she said, stay in cover. Do not try to be heroes. I am going to handle this. Instructor, what are you going to do? Asked So Young. Hana stood up slowly, checking her rifle one more time. I am going to teach you the most important lesson of your lives, she said. Sometimes the greatest power is knowing when to stop holding back. With that, she began walking toward the colony buildings. Not running, not sneaking, just walking. Like she was going for an evening stroll. The students watched in confusion and horror as their instructor walked calmly toward certain death. The pirates seemed just as confused. Their shots became less accurate, as if they could not believe what they were seeing. And deep in the shadows of the colony, Captain Yang Mi-kyung looked through her scope at the approaching figure. Hana stopped walking when she was 50 meters from the main building. The pirates had stopped shooting, confused by her calm approach. She stood in the open, completely exposed, and slowly reached for the bracers on her wrists. Students, she said into her communicator, her voice carrying clearly in the still air. What I am about to show you is classified at the highest levels. You will not speak of this to anyone without direct authorization from Admiral Kang. Instructor, Minho called out, his voice tight with fear. What are you doing? Hana touched the symbols on the first bracer. They began to glow brighter, pulsing with a soft blue light. I am showing you why humans do not need powers, she said. We have something better. The first bracer unlocked with a soft click. The moment it came off her wrist, everything changed. The air around Hana seemed to shimmer. Her movements became fluid in a way that was almost impossible to follow. When she took a step forward, it looked like she was moving through water instead of air. My name is not just Lee Hana, she said, her voice now carrying a dangerous edge. I am Colonel Lee Hana, former commander of the Titan Corps, and for the past 2 years I have been holding back. She removed the second bracer. The change was immediate and terrifying. Hana moved, and suddenly she was not where she had been standing. She was 10 meters to the left, then 20 meters to the right. The watching students could barely follow her with their eyes. The pirates started shooting again, but their laser blasts were hitting empty air. Hana was moving faster than they could track, faster than should have been possible for any normal human. Impossible, breathed Cadet Shin Dong-hyuk from his hiding place. No one can move that fast. She is not using powers, whispered So Young in amazement. This is pure human ability. Hana reached the wall of the first building. Instead of looking for a door, she simply kicked. The reinforced metal wall, designed to withstand mining explosions, crumpled like paper. She stepped through the hole and disappeared inside. The shooting from that building stopped immediately. Captain Yang's voice came over the speakers again, but this time there was worry in it. All units concentrate fire on the main building. Do not let her reach the command center. But it was too late. Hana was already moving through the building like a ghost. The pirates inside were trained soldiers, but they were used to fighting normal enemies. They had never faced someone who could analyze their positions, predict their movements, and respond to threats faster than their own nervous systems could react. The first pirate she encountered was guarding a hallway. He had military-grade armor and a weapon that could punch through steel. When he saw Hana coming, he raised his rifle and fired. Hana moved her head slightly to the left. The laser blast passed by her ear, close enough to singe her hair. Before the pirate could fire again, she was beside him. One quick strike to a pressure point and he collapsed unconscious. "Command, she took out Miller," came a panicked voice over the pirate radio. "She moved faster than I could see." "All units fall back to defensive positions," Captain Yang ordered. "Use the hostages as shields." But Hana was already past their defensive positions. She moved through the building's corridors like she had memorized the layout, though she had never been there before. Every door, every turn, every potential ambush point. She seemed to know them all instinctively. Outside, the watching students could hear the sounds of combat echoing from the building. Occasional laser blasts, the sound of equipment being destroyed, and sometimes the brief cry of a pirate who had not expected to be taken down so quickly. "How is she doing this?" asked Bora in a small voice. Sergeant Lim, monitoring from the ship, had been running scans of the battle. "Her heart rate is barely elevated," he reported over the communicator. "Her breathing is steady. It is like this is not even difficult for her." Inside the building, Hana had reached the main corridor where the hostages were being held. 20 civilians sat on the floor, their hands tied, with 3 armed pirates guarding them. The pirates had heard the fighting getting closer and were getting nervous. "Stay back," one of them shouted as Hana appeared at the end of the corridor. "Come any closer and we start shooting civilians." Hana stopped walking. She studied the situation carefully. 3 guards, 20 hostages, a narrow corridor with no cover. In training scenarios, this would be considered an impossible rescue situation. "You have advanced military equipment," she said conversationally, as if she were discussing the weather. "Psychic dampeners, bioscanners, absorption shields. Someone spent a lot of money preparing you for this job." "Shut up and get on the ground," the lead pirate yelled. "The absorption shields are particularly impressive," Hana continued, ignoring the threat. "They can drain away energy-based attacks. Very effective against voltaic soldiers and similar species." She took a step forward. All 3 pirates raised their weapons, pointing them at the hostages. "But they have one weakness," Hana said, taking another step. "They only work against energy. They do not work against physics." Before the pirates could react, Hana moved. She grabbed a piece of broken metal from the floor and threw it, not at the pirates but the wall behind them. The metal bounced off the wall at precisely the right angle. It struck the overhead light fixture, which fell and hit the fire suppression system. Water began spraying from the ceiling, soaking everyone in the corridor. In the confusion, with water in their eyes and their footing uncertain, the pirates hesitated for just a moment. That was all Hana needed. She was among them before they could pull their triggers. 3 quick strikes, each one precise and calculated. The pirates dropped their weapons and collapsed to the floor, unconscious but alive. "Are you all right?" Hana asked the hostages as she began cutting their bonds with a knife. Dr. Kwan Yun-Su, the colony's chief scientist, stared at her with wide eyes. "You are supposed to be dead," he whispered. Hana paused in cutting the ropes. "Excuse me?" "Colonel Lee Hana of the Titan Corps," Dr. Kwan said. "The files said you died 3 years ago on Rigel Station." "The files are classified," Hana replied calmly. "And mostly correct. I did die on Rigel Station. The person who became an instructor at the academy was someone else entirely." She finished freeing the hostages and activated her communicator. "All civilians are secure. Repeat, hostages are safe." Outside, the remaining pirates were in chaos. Their leader was somewhere in the main building. Their communications were being jammed and half their force had gone silent. The students could hear Captain Yang screaming orders over the radio, but her voice was getting more panicked by the minute. "All units, fall back to the landing pad," she ordered. "Prepare for immediate evacuation." But as the pirates tried to retreat, they found their path blocked. Hana had somehow gotten ahead of them again. She stood at the entrance to the landing pad, alone but completely calm. "Captain Yang," she called out, "I believe we need to talk." Yang Mi-kyung emerged from the shadows, flanked by her remaining soldiers. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and cybernetic implants around her eyes. Her uniform marked her as a former admiral in the regular fleet. "I know who you are now," Yang said. "The ghost of Rigel Station, the woman who single-handedly destroyed an entire rebel fleet." "That was a long time ago," Hana replied. "Not long enough, apparently." Yang raised her weapon. "But you are alone this time. No fleet to back you up. No special equipment. Just you. Hana smiled, and for the first time since removing the bracers, she looked genuinely dangerous. Captain, you made one critical error in your planning. What error? You assumed that the Titan Core was about special equipment and fleet support, Hana said. It was not. It was about what humans can become when we stop accepting limitations. The final battle was brief. Yang and her soldiers were experienced fighters with military-grade weapons and armor, but they were facing someone who had transcended normal human limitations through pure training and determination. Hana moved through their attacks like they were happening in slow motion. She used the environment itself as a weapon, ricocheting shots off metal surfaces, using gravity and momentum to multiply her strength, processing tactical information faster than their targeting computers could track. When it was over, Yang Mikyung lay on the ground, defeated but alive. Her soldiers were unconscious around her. The pirate ships in orbit had fled when their ground force stopped responding. Hana stood among the defeated pirates, breathing normally, her uniform barely wrinkled. She activated her communicator one last time. "Mission complete," she said. "All hostiles captured. Colony is secure." Then she picked up her bracers from where she had left them and slowly put them back on her wrists. As the locks clicked into place, the shimmer around her faded. Her movements became normal again. By the time the students reached her, she was just Instructor Hana once more, but they would never forget what they had seen, and they would never again question why humans did not need powers to be the most feared species in the galaxy. 1 week later, life at Vega Station Military Academy had returned to what looked like normal. The rescued hostages had been taken to safety. The captured pirates were in military prison awaiting trial. The official reports were filed and classified at the highest levels, but nothing was really normal anymore. In Training Hall 7, Hana stood before her combat class, just like she had every day for 2 years. She wore the same simple uniform. Her hair was tied back in the same neat style. The metal bracers were back on her wrists, looking like ordinary jewelry. But the students who looked at her now saw someone completely different. Kim Young-ho, who had once laughed at human fighting techniques, now sat in the front row taking careful notes. He had started studying human martial arts the day after they returned. Every movement, every technique that Instructor Hana demonstrated, he tried to copy exactly. Lee Soo-min, a voltaic student who had always relied on her energy powers, now practiced the basic forms over and over. She had learned on Kepler 442b that powers could be blocked, but skill and training never left you. Choi Min-ho no longer made jokes about humans being the weakest race. He had felt what it was like when his telepathic abilities were turned against him. Now he understood why Instructor Hana always said that powers could fail when you needed them most. "Today we will practice defensive positioning," Hana said, her voice as calm and patient as it had always been. "Remember, the best fight is the one you never have to have." An Bo-ra raised her hand. "Instructor, what if the enemy is stronger than you? What if they have better weapons?" Hana smiled slightly. "Then you use what advantages you do have. Speed, surprise, better training. Sometimes that is enough." "And if it is not enough?" asked Nam So-young. The classroom was very quiet. Everyone was thinking about the same thing, the moment when their instructor had removed her bracers and become something beyond their understanding. "Then you do what you must," Hana said simply. "But you never give up, and you never stop trying to protect the people who depend on you." After class, several students lingered in the hallway, talking in quiet voices. The story of what had happened on Kepler 442b was spreading through the academy, though most of the details remained classified. "Did you see how she moved?" whispered John Min-soo to his friend. "It was like she was not even human anymore." "But she was human," replied Oh Tae-yang. "That is the point. She did not use any powers. She just stopped holding back." In the hallways, other students who had not been on the mission looked at the returning group with new respect and some fear. These cadets had seen real combat. They had watched their instructor do impossible things using nothing but human ability, pushed to its absolute limits. The alien students were particularly affected. For their entire lives, they had been told that their species were superior to humans. They had powers that humans did not have. They were faster, stronger, could do things that baseline humans could never match. Now they understood the truth. Humans did not have powers because they did not need them. They had found something better. That afternoon, Admiral Kang Tai-sung visited Hana in her small office. He closed the door behind him and sat down across from her desk. "I have been reading the after-action reports," he said. "Very interesting reading." Hana looked up from the papers she had been grading. "I hope they were accurate, sir." "They were also heavily classified," Admiral Kang continued. "It seems my combat instructor has a more interesting background than I was told when she was assigned here. Is that a problem, sir?" Admiral Kang leaned back in his chair. "Colonel Lee Hana of the Titan Corps. 3 years dead according to the official records. Winner of the Solar Cross, the Galactic Defense Medal, and about 12 other decorations I am not supposed to know about." Hana set down her pen. "What do you want to know, sir?" "I want to know why the most decorated soldier in human history is teaching basic combat forms to cadets." For a long moment, Hana was quiet. When she spoke, her voice was softer than usual. "Because these cadets will be the leaders of tomorrow. They will command fleets and armies. They will make decisions that affect billions of lives. And they need to understand what humans are truly capable of. Not so they will use that capability, but so they will understand the responsibility that comes with it." Admiral Kang nodded slowly. "The power to choose restraint." "Exactly." He stood up to leave, then paused at the door. "There is a rumor going around that you single-handedly destroyed 3 star systems during the Rigel campaign." Hana looked out her small window at the students walking across the academy grounds. "The rumor is wrong, sir." "Oh?" "It was 4 star systems, but they were evacuated first." Admiral Kang was quiet for a moment. "Colonel, I have an offer from Fleet Command. They want you back in active service. Your own ship, your own crew. You could write your own mission parameters." "I appreciate the offer, sir, but I have a job here. Training cadets is hardly making use of your abilities." Hana turned to look at him directly. "With respect, sir, I think it is the most important use of my abilities. These students will graduate and serve across the galaxy. They will work with humans and aliens alike. They need to understand that humanity's greatest strength is not what we can do, but what we choose not to do." After Admiral Kang left, Hana returned to grading papers. Outside her window, she could see some of her students practicing combat forms on the academy grounds. They moved with new purpose now, new understanding. That evening, she walked through the dormitory halls on her regular security check. As she passed one room, she heard voices through the thin walls. "Do you think she would teach us?" It was Kim Woo-jin's voice. "Teach us what?" replied his roommate. "To move like she did. To fight like that." "I do not think it is something you can just teach," came a third voice, Park Ji-sung, who was recovering from his injury. "I think it is something you have to become." Hana paused outside their door. Through the small window, she could see several of her students sitting in a circle, talking quietly. Their faces were serious, older somehow than they had been a week ago. "My grandfather fought in the border wars," So Young was saying. "He told me stories about human soldiers who could do impossible things. I thought they were just stories." "They were not stories," said Bora quietly. "My people have legends about human warriors. We call them the Silent Death. We thought they were myths to scare children." "Maybe that was the point," suggested Daeho. "Maybe humans wanted other species to think they were myths." Hana continued her patrol, but she was smiling slightly. Her students were beginning to understand. Not just the techniques she had taught them, but the deeper lesson underneath. The next morning, she returned to Training Hall 7 for another day of classes. As the students filed in, she noticed something different in how they moved. They were more careful now, more aware of their surroundings. They had learned to see the world the way a soldier sees it. "Good morning," she said as they lined up in neat rows. "Good morning, Instructor Lee," they replied in unison, but their voices carried new respect. "Today we will learn about proportional response," Hana announced. "Can anyone tell me what that means?" Oh Taeyang raised his hand. "Using only as much force as necessary to accomplish your mission." "Close," Hana said. "Anyone else?" Minho, who had been quiet since the mission, slowly raised his hand. "It means knowing that you could do more but choosing not to?" Hana nodded approvingly. "Exactly. Proportional response is not about limitations. It is about choice. The choice to use exactly as much force as the situation requires and no more." She walked to the center of the room, just as she had done hundreds of times before, but now her students hung on every word. "This is why we train without powers," she continued. Not because powers are wrong, but because they make it too easy to use more force than necessary. When you must rely on skill and training alone, you learn precision. You learn control. A student in the back row, Hong Sang-ho, raised his hand nervously. Instructor, why do humans not use their full capabilities more often? The room was completely silent. Everyone wanted to hear the answer to this question. Hana was quiet for a long moment, choosing her words carefully. Because the last time we did, 3 different species begged us to stop. That is why they built this academy. That is why they asked us to teach restraint instead of conquest. The students looked at each other with new understanding. The academy was not just about training soldiers. It was about teaching the most dangerous species in the galaxy how to hold back. Every day, Hana continued, you work alongside species that could destroy you with their natural abilities. Xanthari who can read your thoughts. Morphians who can become anyone they choose. Voltaic beings who can control lightning itself. She gestured to the mixed group of students before her. But you also work alongside humans. And now you understand what that really means. At the end of class, as the students were leaving, Minho approached her desk. He looked nervous but determined. Instructor, he said, I wanted to apologize. For what? For saying that humans were jealous of our powers. For saying you were the weakest race. He looked down at his hands. I understand now. You are not jealous of our powers. You are scared of your own. Hana studied his face for a moment. Not scared, she corrected gently. Responsible. There is a difference.